When I pushed open the door to my parents' house, I wasn't expecting peace, but I wasn't expecting this either. My name is Ivy Marquez, and the moment I stepped into the dining room, everything inside me went impossibly still. I heard my mother before I even saw her. Her voice floated across the table, calm, certain, rehearsed. "Logan and Avery eat first," she said. "Ivy's boys can wait for whatever's left." My heart didn't drop, it hardened. Brianna laughed as if the rule made perfect sense, as if it had always been that way. My father didn't even bother looking up from his plate. And there in the far corner of the room, my sons Micah and Eli sat with empty plates balanced on their knees, their backs straight, their little faces trying so hard not to show hunger. Micah caught my eye for a second. His smile was small, polite, practiced, as if this was normal, as if he'd learned to shrink himself to fit the space he'd been given. I didn't ask for an explanation. I didn't demand fairness or raise my voice or count all the times we'd been pushed aside. I simply steadied my breath, walked across the room, and placed a hand on each of my sons' shoulders. "We're leaving," I said softly. No one stopped me. No one apologized. No one even looked surprised. But they should have been. As I guided my boys toward the door, my mother called after me, annoyed rather than ashamed. "Ivy, don't make this dramatic. They just need to learn their place." I paused only long enough to let her words land exactly where they needed to. "They just did," I said. "They thought they were putting my children in their place. They had no idea they were pushing themselves out of mine." Micah didn't say anything on the walk to the car. He climbed into the back seat with that careful quiet he used whenever he wasn't sure what version of the world was waiting. Eli followed, clutching his sketchbook, the one he hid behind when things felt too big. I buckled them in, closed the door gently, and stood there a moment with my hand on the roof, letting the cold air settle in my chest. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened, just the first time it was spoken aloud. When I was their age, I learned quickly where I fit. I was the older sister, the helper, the one who carried bags, gave up the bigger slice, stayed silent when Brianna wanted something. My mother never said the words, but the message was clear. You adjust. You step aside. You disappear. I spent years pretending it didn't hurt, pretending it made me resilient. But seeing Micah in that corner, the same corner I once occupied, something old and familiar tightened inside me. I started the car headlights slicing across my parents' driveway, illuminating cracks I'd memorized as a kid. Micah finally spoke, voice small but steady. "Mom, it's okay. We're used to it." Used to it. No 8-year-old should know those words. Eli looked up from his sketchbook. "Do they not like us?" he whispered, as if the answer might reshape him. My grip tightened on the wheel. "They should," I said. "They should like you. They should treat you like you belong." The truth hung between us, heavy but real. As I drove away, the porch light shrinking behind us, I understood something I'd avoided for years. I wasn't just maintaining peace. I was teaching my children how to live without it. The boys fell asleep on the drive home, their heads tilted toward each other, breaths soft and steady. I carried Eli in first, then Micah, who murmured something half-dreamed as I tucked him in. When the apartment finally went quiet, I stood in the living room watching the nightlight glow against the hallway wall. It wasn't just today. This had been building for years. Every family gathering held its reminders, small enough to ignore, sharp enough to leave marks. Logan and Avery got the real plates, while Micah and Eli got plastic ones because kids don't need nice things. My boys sat at the folding table near the pantry. Brianna's kids sat at the main table with the adults. Whenever I arrived, someone handed me a task. Before I even took off my coat. Set the table, watch the kids prep dessert while Brianna floated like a guest. I stayed silent, insisting peace mattered more. But deep down, I knew better. I'd been trained for this all my life. My parents never corrected Brianna's tone, but told me not to be dramatic. They excused her moods, but lectured me about patience. She got the new bedroom set. I got hand-me-downs because you handle things better. And I understood fairness was optional in our house. I just never thought my children would inherit that truth. Pacing the living room, I saw them again at that tiny table. Not misbehaving, not loud, just placed aside, as if someone had decided they didn't deserve the space. A cold clarity washed over me, not anger, not sadness. Recognition. My boys were learning the same rules I'd been taught, and tonight was the first time I truly saw it through their eyes. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds in thin lines. I got the boys ready for school, packing lunches, tying shoes, smoothing cowlicks, but everything felt different, as if the air had shifted. Micah watched me carefully, trying to read what I wasn't saying. Eli clung to my arm a little longer than usual. When the door finally shut behind me, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. On the drive to work, my phone buzzed. Expecting a school alert, I tapped my headset, then heard Liam's voice, warm but cautious. "Hey, Ivy, you okay? You looked off yesterday." I hesitated. I wasn't used to being asked that most people reached for me only when they needed something. "I'm fine," I said automatically. A pause. "You don't sound fine." I kept my eyes on the road. "Something happened at my parents' house. Bad. My boys were told to wait for leftovers. The others ate first." Liam didn't speak at first. When he did, disbelief edged his voice. They said it out loud, like it was nothing. Another long pause, thoughtful, not uncomfortable. "Ivy, I've known you 3 years. You're the most patient person I know. But patience isn't letting people teach your kids they're lesser." His words landed heavier than I expected. I parked in the school lot and stared at the empty playground. The swings moved in the wind chains, creaking like they remembered every child who'd sat on them. "I think my kids are learning to be small," I said softly. "And it's my fault." Liam exhaled sharply. Anger directed elsewhere. Then why, he asked, steady and piercing. "Are you letting them?" The question hit harder than the insult at the dinner table. For the first time, I didn't have an answer. And maybe that was the problem. I spent the rest of the school day on autopilot, greeting students, running therapy sessions, filling reports. Yet a quiet determination pulsed under my ribs. Every time I pictured Micah's polite, practiced smile at that empty table, something inside me tightened with a clarity I couldn't ignore. By the time I got home, the decision was already taking shape. I made dinner, listened to Eli describe his cartoon, laughed at Micah's story about a classmate juggling oranges. Their loud, easy voices, safe again, only sharpened what I knew I needed to do. After they were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank notebook. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes truth louder. I opened to the first page and wrote, "Reset plan. Not revenge, not punishment. A reset, a boundary I should have made years ago." I listed the changes, turning long-held feelings into simple lines. We'd decline the next few family gatherings. No excuses, just a clear, "We won't be attending." I'd stop dropping everything when Brianna called. No more last-minute favors, no more reorganizing my life to hold hers together. I wouldn't accept unfair seating, unequal treatment, or traditions that pushed my boys to the margins. If they weren't given the same space and dignity as Logan and Avery, we simply wouldn't be there. Small decisions, quiet ones, but together they felt monumental. I leaned back, letting the realization settle. I'd been raised to believe keeping the peace was love. But looking at my son's drawings on the fridge, I understood something new. Peace without respect isn't peace, it's submission. And I was done submitting. I closed the notebook, feeling a steadiness click into place, something I hadn't felt in years. This time I wasn't shrinking. I was preparing. My phone began buzzing before the sun even finished rising the next day. I had just poured cereal for the boys when Brianna's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. She tried again, and again. On the 4th call, I answered. Her voice was sharp, coated in entitlement. "Logan has soccer practice today, and Mom said you're free. Can you watch Avery afterward?" I took a sip of coffee, calm settling through me like a slow inhale. "I'm not available." A beat of silence, then a scoff. "You're always available." Not anymore. I could practically hear her blinking in disbelief. "Are you serious? What am I supposed to do, Ivy?" I glanced at Micah, who was helping Eli zip up his jacket. "Figure it out, Brianna," like I always did. I hung up before she could respond. The next message came from my mother. An hour later, a text filled with dramatic concern and pointed guilt. "Family helps family. You've always been our dependable one. Don't start changing now, your sister needs you." I reread the message slowly, letting its weight roll off me. Then I typed, "We're taking a step back for a while. Please respect that." No explanation, no apology. My father called later that evening. He didn't sound angry, he sounded unsettled. "Your mother is upset. Brianna, too. They're worried. They said you've been distant." I folded laundry while he talked the boys giggling in the background as they built a pillow fort. "I'm not distant," I corrected softly. "I'm protecting my kids." Dad hesitated. "From what we're your family." I almost laughed. Not out of humor, out of recognition. He truly didn't see it. From being treated like lesser, I said. From learning the same lessons I had to unlearn. He exhaled like the conversation exhausted him. Don't make this bigger than it is. It already is, I said. For the first time, he had no response. I ended the call, set my phone face down, and joined the boys in their makeshift fort. Their laughter filled the room bright and unburdened. And for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere too. The world didn't fall apart when I stepped back, but theirs was starting to. It didn't take long before the invitation arrived, though. Calling it an invitation was generous. My mother left a voicemail saying we were expected for a family discussion on Sunday. Expected, not asked. The difference was intentional. I knew this was coming. Still, I got the boys ready and drove to my parents' house with a steady calm humming under my skin. It wasn't anger. It wasn't dread. It was something firmer, quieter, like standing on solid ground for the first time. Inside, everyone was already gathered around the dining table, the same table where my sons had been told to wait for crumbs. Brianna sat upright, arms crossed her expression, a mixture of superiority and panic. My father looked stern, hands clasped. My mother wore disappointment like jewelry. I didn't sit, not at the small side table, not at the main table. Micah and Eli stood beside me close enough that I could feel their warmth against my leg. My mother started first. Ivy, this distance you're creating isn't healthy. You're blowing things out of proportion. Brianna jumped in before I could speak. You're leaving me stranded. I can't do everything alone, Ivy. You used to help. I let their words hover, then fall. I'm not here to argue, I said calmly. I'm here to be clear. My father gestured toward the chair nearest him. Then sit down so we can talk like adults. I shook my head. I'll stand. My boys will stand with me. My mother's eyes narrowed. Why are you being dramatic? I met her stare without flinching. Because last week my children were told they were less, and everyone in this room acted like it was normal. An uncomfortable silence swallowed the table. Brianna scoffed, looking away. You're exaggerating. It wasn't that serious. Micah's small voice broke and surprising all of us. It felt serious to me. Brianna's mouth snapped shut. My sons will never sit in corners again, I continued. Not here. Not anywhere. If they aren't treated equally in this family, then we simply won't be part of it. My mother gasped softly. You can't just leave. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm refusing to stay in the position you put us in. I took my son's hands, turned toward the door, and felt the room erupt with whispered disbelief behind us. But none of it stopped me, and none of it would. The door shut behind us with a soft click, not a slam. I didn't need drama. The boys walked beside me, holding my hands as we stepped into the cool afternoon air. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel drained or guilty. I felt steady. At home, the boys moved with a lightness I hadn't seen in weeks. Micah hummed while unpacking his backpack. Eli spread out his crayons and drew a family of four: me, him, Micah, and himself again twice the size. I didn't correct him. I just watched something in me loosening. In the following days, calls from my family came and went. My mother swung between guilt and anger. My father used logic. Families aren't perfect, kids bounce back. Brianna sent long messages about being overwhelmed without me. I answered none of them. Not out of spite, out of clarity. My silence wasn't punishment. It was protection. I finally saw how many years I'd spent cushioning everyone's discomfort, smoothing conflicts, serving as the bridge for people who treated me like scaffolding instead of someone with her own structure. Now I was building something new. We made new routines: weekend hikes, pancake Saturdays, movie nights where Micah chose adventure and Eli chose animation. They laughed louder, asked for seconds without checking if they deserved it. Every time they did something like victory warmed my chest. One night as I tucked Eli in, he looked at me with wide eyes. Mom, are we a family now? The question broke and healed something in me at once. I brushed his hair back. We always were, I whispered. We just stopped letting people make us feel like we weren't. Later, sitting with chamomile tea, the apartment's quiet felt warm, safe, ours. My family had taught my children to accept crumbs. So I taught them something better: to choose tables where they are valued and to walk away from the ones where they aren't. In the end, that quiet choice was the strongest revenge.